Welcome to our session today with the New York Film Academy. My name is Paula Masad and I'm the English Language and Education Advisor at the U.S. Embassy in Doha. I have with me my colleague Asil. Asil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Asil Ogaili. I'm the Education Advisor. We welcome you today and we welcome your participation. Welcome our team from New York Film Academy. Thank you.
We have a great group of panelists ready to speak with you today about what admission officers are looking for when reviewing student auditions or portfolios. I'd like to welcome Piero Basso, the Chair of Cinematography, Joey Zangardi-Dixon, Director of Performing Arts Admissions, David Major, Chair of Photography, Jonathan Whitaker, Chair of Filmmaking, and Lizzie Sack, Associate Director of Strategic Initiative, and Tammy Alexander, VP for the Eastern Region. And thank you, Lizzie and Tammy, for helping set up this webinar today. And Lizzie, I'll let you lead the way.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. It's wonderful to have you with us. As Paula said, my name is Lizzie Sack. I am the Associate Director of Strategic Initiatives here at the New York Film Academy. And part of my job and Tammy Alexander's job is to travel to countries within the Middle East to seek out talented students who are interested in studying visual and performing arts in the United States. And while we're on the road, we work with students who are interested in many types of programs, whether that's filmmaking, photography, acting, cinematography, 3D animation. And probably the most questions that we get from teachers and agents and students is, what should I include in my portfolio? What is a portfolio? How do I prepare the portfolio? So today I've asked some of our professors to join us in order to help you along with that. But first I will let Tammy Alexander introduce herself so she can take it away.
Thank you, Lizzie. Hi, everyone. My name is Tammy. My current role is the VP for the Middle East for New York Film Academy. So what does that mean? I help students come and study with us in the US and pursue their passion in the arts. I have been traveling to the Middle East for about a decade, so about 10 years. So if you have any questions about what it's like to be interested in studying the arts and from the Middle East, and then, you know, the processes, anything along those lines, I'm sure I may be able to answer that. If not, some of my colleagues on this call will definitely be able to, because some of them have been to the Middle East as well and are very familiar with students from the region because they've taught them. I definitely encourage you to keep an open mind today. If you are interested in studying the arts, you can. You definitely can. If you believe that you have the passion, if you have the interest, it is definitely possible. Don't think that this is something that is unachievable, that you're never going to be able to do it. If you want to be an artist, if you are an artist and you want to pursue education, you definitely can in this field. So thank you.
I just want to jump in and make sure that all participants, if you have questions, to make sure you type them in the chat box, and we'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we will, like Paula said, we'll have time for questions at the end. And until then, if everyone can please just mute your mics, just because it makes it a little bit clearer for us. But we are joined by Jonathan Whitaker, who is the chair of our filmmaking program. Jonathan?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening to hear more about what we're looking for when it comes to a creative portfolio. And as Lizzie said, I am the co-chair of the filmmaking department in New York. And true to, I think, all of our professors and chairs, I'm also a working professional. I work as a director and a producer in the industry, if you will. So I'm happy today to share with you kind of what I understand, what we're looking for, what I know what I'm looking for, and I think others out there at other universities and institutions would be as well.
Thank you. We also have Piero Basso, who is the chair of our cinematography department.
By now I should know how to use Zoom. Welcome, I am the chair of the cinematography department in New York. And as Jonathan pointed out, we are all working professional, working in this institution, and I'm a professional cinematographer with several feature film and other high-end project. It's very exciting to share an insight of what we're looking for in portfolio, because I think it's the first presentation that you give to to the institution that you might work on to get in. And it's very important to make a good impression and to show your true self also, not to fake who you are, but to show what your passion, what's your style, what you're looking to learn into the cinematography in specific, and so on. So it's quite exciting to be here.
Thank you, Piero. We have Joey Zangardi-Dixon, who is the director of our Performing Arts Admissions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for being here. So quick little backstory on me is I used to work in casting with MTV, Fox, NBC, and Nickelodeon. I was an agent here in New York City as well. I performed professionally. And then for the last 9 years, I've been working in the admissions team as well as overseeing all the auditions that come through for musical theater and a good portion of them that come through for the Acting for Film program. So I'm excited to share a little bit of knowledge and what we're specifically looking for. I also attend many, many events across the globe, working with other institutions. So I do have some insight as to what they're looking for as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And last, but certainly not least, we have David Major, who is the chair of our photography department.
Hi, everyone. Welcome today. Again, my name is David Major. I'm chair of photography in the New York campus. And I've been a commercial photographer for 30 years and been involved with the New York Film Academy, teaching and chairing the program for the last 10 years. So happy to share all information that I have about photography portfolio building and what types of things to think about.
Thank you. So we'll start off with filmmaking. So Jonathan, could you just tell us generally what is included in a potential film student's creative portfolio?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lizzie. It can be a wide range of things. Ideally, because you're applying to a film school, because you're applying to a directing program, you would have some type of content that demonstrates your ability to do that, to direct. And so there would be, I would say, 2 pieces of content would be ideal, keeping it somewhat short in nature. So we're not looking for feature lengths, but a short project, or maybe you extract a scene from a larger project, maybe 5 to 10 minutes max in regards to the amount of content you show. But at least here, and so every institution is different. So obviously do your due diligence and reach out to their admissions department. But at the New York Film Academy, we don't require that you actually have past film experience. So you don't have to submit a film or a video. You can submit anything that you feel really best represents who you are as a storyteller and who you are as an artist. And so that could be written content, that could be a short script, a short story, a poem, it could be photography, it could be a painting. I think the most unique piece of content we've ever gotten was some photographs of furniture that one of the applicants had designed. And it kind of gives you a bit of insight as to who they are as an artist and kind of what their creative skill set is. So I know that's a lot, but I guess again, to reiterate, ideally it would be in the field that you're applying for, so something that you've directed, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that.
Okay, so it's okay if a student hasn't shot a film before, but if they have shot a film or if they're in the process of it, is in progress work okay to submit?
Absolutely. Yeah, in progress work, I would, where are you? I would identify it as such and let them know that it's in progress. And so it doesn't need to be, one of the things that I always tell students who are applying or prospective students is that we're not looking for a polished piece of work. We're not looking for something with super slick production value. We're really looking for somebody that has something to say, somebody that has a unique voice. And I think that can be said with something that is a work in progress. We would still get a good indication of what interests you, of what you want to say to the world, of the story that you have to tell, even if it's not, a fine cut and with color correction and a perfect sound mix. So that would be fine.
Great. And since we do have students from all over the world right now, does the film have to be in English?
It does not, no. I think, it makes it maybe easier for us, but that's just me being selfish. If it's not in English, if you can subtitle it, that would be great. But again, that's also not necessary. What we're dealing with is The language that we're using is the cinematic language. It's a visual language. And so if you are doing your job as a film director, the audience should be able to understand your story with the sound off. And so for me, it's not a huge detriment to have a film come in and it being a foreign language and me not understand exactly what's being said, because now I'm really looking for, can I still understand what's going on? And if the answer to that question is yes, that's a really good indication that this person who directed that project has some skills and knows, has a good foundation of the cinematic language. So subtitles make it more enjoyable. English makes it a little bit easier for us. That's just me being lazy, but neither of them are necessary.
Okay. And if they have shot a number of films, how many films, what length of film should be presented?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, for me, see, the sweet spot is two short films. That's not to say that if you directed a feature that it might not be the most compelling piece of content I'll ever watch, but quite simply, I think you can imagine with the amount of portfolios that people review, we don't have the time to watch a feature. So I would say if you have something that's a half hour long or feature length, hour plus, go in there and extract the scenes that you think best summarize the story and best demonstrate your ability to create dramatic tension, your ability to elevate a scene, to bring me into the story and pull that one scene. If you have short films, submit a couple short films and submit them back to back. What I would say that you should not do, and I think my colleague might have a different answer because he's in a different field and different skill set, is we're not looking for a cut up of, say, the best shots from your films, right? So I'm not looking for a highlight reel where it's just really cool setups or really cool shots, whether it involves a drone or a cool lighting setup. That might be great if you're applying for cinematography, but as directors, we want to see that you can put together a scene and the scene follows the structure of a story, right? With a beginning, a middle, and an end. And to create that dramatic tension, to be able to set something up and pay it off. So to reiterate, I would say at least two pieces of content to show that you have the range. Keep them short. If it's not a short film, extract a scene. And that scene should best demonstrate your ability as a director and also kind of summarize your story. So kind of a pivotal scene, something that is an important scene in the overall story itself.
Okay. So whether it's a film or a poem or photographs or furniture designs, what is the best way to submit this work?
Today's day and age, the best way to submit anything would be digitally. So that would be, online, whether you can create a secure link and send it to us with a password, or if it's something that we can verify that is yours, that is hosted online on a platform that may be public. But that would be the most efficient way to send it. And again, that's really how we would share files and share content these days.
Okay. And if you had one or two or three pieces of advice for someone who has not created a portfolio before, what would those be?
You know me well. I will try to keep it to one. Brevity is not my forte. As I'm encouraging you all to be brief in your portfolios, I don't always practice what I preach. But I would say that if I did distill it to one, it would be that we're here today talking about what people like myself look for in reviewing a portfolio. But I want to be clear. My advice to you would be, follow the guidelines as to what they're requesting, but don't try to think about what I want to see. Send me what you want to show. And the difference being that, who are you? Who are you as an artist? What story do you have to tell? And find the work that best exemplifies that. Right? Don't get bogged down with trying to think about, well, are they going to like this? Are they going to like that? Is this story going to resonate? Does it mean something special to you? And if it does, then trust your instincts, trust your gut, and send that in.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan.
You got one?
Yeah, you got one.
Nice.
We've done many of these. It's the first time he's gotten one.
Practice.
So we'll move on to cinematography, which we will speak with Piero Basso about. So Piero, could you talk to us just what is generally included in a potential cinematography student's creative portfolio?
Well, a cinematography portfolio obviously is focused on the visuals of the visual talent and the visual choices that the applicant has. So normally includes short video that the applicant has made. Could include photography, could have could be painting, which of course are not motion, but still represent an expression of visual style and talent. It really can, at a certain point, I feel like the portfolio needs to express and present the person more than what they've done in the past. So I personally feel that a portfolio can literally be everything. If a student send me 2 photos and a collection of poems, the poems might express a talent, artistic talent that could be extremely interesting in the field of cinematography, independently from what the candidate has done before. We, at least at NIFA and in many other institutions, the idea is that you're not training professional, with an advanced and finalization training, but you train students that are at the very beginning. So in some way, a portfolio doesn't need to show me that you already know how to do the job that you want to learn. It's more about showing who you are and what are your interests and what is your visual, your vision of the world in some way.
Okay. And if a student has worked as a cinematographer before, is it best to submit a demo reel, or, as Jonathan was saying, a whole film? What's easiest for you?
I think the obviously, if every student submit 2 feature film for review, it would be very hard to for us, for any institution to review, unless in film festival there's generally a committee that pre-select the videos, and then once they've been pre-selected, and only a few get to the real selectors for the final decision. I think in an educational setting, we don't need to have somebody pre-screening people just because the amount of videos to review and watch is too extensive. I think the best shot you have is if you send a selection of your work, which could be a demo reel, or even better, I think a selection of sequences from project. I don't need to see your best 25 best shot, but I need to see like 3 sequences from 3 different projects potentially, where I can really see the talent and the interest of the applicant.
Okay. And what would, excuse me, what would be the best way to submit this work? Is it also digitally?
I would absolutely say digitally. It's a Google Drive with a password, or Vimeo link with password that also works very well. That's generally the way in the professional world we share, pre-cut or rough cut, or samples of work, and so on. So that, I think, it's the easiest and most immediate way to communicate and to share your portfolio, your projects.
Okay. And both for Piero and Jonathan as well, is it okay if the students have shot something but it's not on professional equipment?
Jonathan, do you want to answer first, or?
Well, you're on the screen if you want.
So no, absolutely not. I mean, it's again, the most of the institution, certainly NIFA, but I would imagine most of the others, unless it's an advanced course that is designed for professional already, it's given as normal, the idea that they will not use a professional equipment because they have their family video camera. Most of them even uses their phone. It's perfectly fine. And honestly, I feel when there is talent, when a cinematographer, in my case, is talented and knows, has a vision, as a style, as that thing inside that makes you create the images that we want to see. You see that in a phone much even better than with fancy cameras. A good project on a phone stands out because you know the limitation, and at that point you really see the potentials of the person. If you shoot on the Alexa, of course the images will look probably good, but you know, the camera does a lot at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I will echo Piero in saying that you know, what we're not looking for a highly produced, you know, a lot of production value. Again, you know, it's through limitations that creativity is born. And so we can tell this was shot with limited resources, but the story still resonates with us on some level. And we can see that skill. That's more exciting for us as a prospect to have in the classroom, because we're going to teach you the technical skills, but the other side of it, we can't teach you. So that's certainly not imperative that it's quote unquote professional.
Okay. So Piero, if you could give one or two pieces of advice for a student who has not created a cinematography portfolio before, what would that be?
I think the most important thing is that the portfolio needed to present the person, not supposedly, you know, impress us with things that they've done before. So, you know, obviously, if they have already worked professionally, there will be more things that are, you know, professional grade. Obviously, that is always a good sign. But really, to me, is more important to you know, I don't select based on the video. I select based on the person. You know, if the videos tell me that the person has talent, has capacity, has you know, there's room to grow, there is the potentials, and on top of that, there is the passion for the videos. You know, for cinematography. That's all I need. You know, in my course that just started, we selected a student that you know, sent some travel videos. But those travel videos, you know, shows an interest for the composition, for the framing, for the lighting. You know, waiting at that time of day to get the perfect light for the shot. To me, you know, our travel videos are not fancy movies, but to me, that care for the quality of the image is much more significant than the perfect shot, but that doesn't have a soul and doesn't show the person behind the camera is.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Piero.
Of course.
So we'll move on to acting. Joey, could you talk to us a little bit about what is an audition and what is usually required for one?
Of course. So I think the first thing that I want to clarify is when people are asking for a portfolio in the acting world is we're not necessarily looking for a ton of samples of your work and all of these pictures and photos from past productions. What we're really looking for is an audition. And now this is going to vary drastically, obviously, from school to school. So again, which I think Jonathan said earlier, is make sure that you pay attention to those guidelines for each school. Some schools are going to require classical text or Shakespeare. Others are going to specifically ask for contemporary monologues, similar to the New York Film Academy. But monologues are really what we're going to ask for. These are anywhere between about a minute to 2 minutes. New York Film Academy asks about a minute to a minute and a half for each. And we ask for 2 contrasting contemporary monologues. And when we say contemporary, we just mean, contemporary, we mean anything basically 1950s, 1960s written from then until now, nothing before then. So I think post-World War II is usually a good stepping stone into what we're looking for. We don't want that classical text from the 1800s, for example, at the New York Film Academy.
Could you clarify, just in case people aren't aware, what exactly is a monologue?
Yeah, great question. So, so a scene is really dialogue back and forth, where you and I right now are talking back and forth. That's more of a scene. A monologue is really more of a speech. So it's me talking to you for a long period of dialogue. So it's really just about a minute to a minute and a half of just me specifically speaking to someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where could students find monologue suggestions?
Actually, I can drop in a couple of these in the links. So I'll do that in a few minutes. But in the meantime, the best thing to do is read as many plays as you're able to. If you're going to watch films, I suggest only watching it once. And then maybe if you want to use a monologue from that, turn away from the screen and transcribe it. But don't keep watching the actor over and over and over again, because you're going to want to imitate what that actor has already done. And in many cases, they've won awards for them, or there's there's a higher ability that's already attached to that, with lights, with sound, with music and underscoring, which you're not going to have in an actual audition. So watch as many films and TV shows as you want, you are able to do that. But like I said, don't overwatch. And then definitely read as many plays as physically possible. And then I'm going to drop in just some different research here as far as some helpful links. Hopefully that'll be helpful to everybody. But yeah, I think the other thing is Google is your friend. When I was growing up, it was about going to the library and taking everything off the shelf. Find monologues that you like, but then make sure that you read the play that follows it so that you really understand the background behind it.
Okay. Could
Yeah.
someone say write their own monologue?
I highly suggest against that. And most schools are going to say the same because that's really just your words. What we're interested in is understanding how you interpret someone else's words.
Okay. So what are some different ways that a student could audition for an art school, for New York Film Academy?
Great. Well, luckily with the New York Film Academy, we typically are traveling all around the globe. Obviously, Tammy and Lizzie, who are on here, travel often. I'm also one of those people. So we do in-person auditions in other countries, other states and cities. But currently, we are doing virtual auditions because that is kind of the only way that we can do it. The other option is, of course, just to self-record yourself. So self-tapes are obviously welcome as well. Similar to what the other two were saying, we do want links for that. So these are not recorded, DVDs or things like that. That link is really important to send to us, whether that be Vimeo, YouTube, a Google Drive. But it is also really important to remember that what we want you to do is keep those active. Because while you're applying to a school, we may reference those multiple times, not just for acceptance, but before you start or in the middle. So make sure that you keep those live, even if they are under a private setting.
Okay. So what would be your best piece of advice in selecting a good monologue for the student?
Great. I always say age and type appropriate. I would say find an age range. Some people look very young. When I was 18, I looked 16. So I could play 16 to 24, where some people read a little older. So maybe an 18-year-old can play up to 25 or even 30. So I would say use that range, find characters that you would play today. Many people right now that might be in high school or they might be playing, doing shows, they might be cast as an elderly person, but they're not elderly. We don't want to see that right now. What we want is, especially in TV and film, you're going to likely be cast as you and what you can play. So something that lives in that range.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had talked a little bit about recording the audition. Does it have to be professionally recorded?
It does not. Actually, your phone, a computer is great. I do say turn it sideways so that we do have a horizontal landscape for that. It is not a professional video, so we don't need a professional camera, but we still want you to treat it as a professional audition. So you should still dress appropriate. You should treat it like a professional audition, but it definitely does not have to be professionally recorded.
Okay. And then lastly,
yeah.
If you could give one or two pieces of advice for someone who has never auditioned before, what would that be?
Great. The first thing, which I said before, is please do not imitate. We're so much at the mercy of shows or teachers or scripts that dictate what we get to say in these monologues. So find pieces that you love and that you want to do and that resonate with you. This is that time to take advantage of that. So when you go into an audition, you're doing pieces you already love and are connected to. So just have fun with it. You can either go into the room as you could treat a casting, if you will. You can treat it as a gateway, or you can treat it as a barricade, if you will. This is not a horror story. We are actually on the other side welcoming. We want you to do better than you want yourself to do. We're excited about the talent that's coming through that room. So we're actually welcoming figures that love good energy and love the confidence and love great talent. So just have fun.
And another thing to think about, just because this is such an international audience, does it have to be in English?
It does have to be in English, but definitely don't stray away from your accent. If you have an accent, we would love to see it or love to hear it. That is you, that is a part of you. If you can do an accent that is amazing and it can fool anyone, feel free to use a different accent, but always we want it in English.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey.
Thanks so much, everybody.
All right, and we'll move on to photography. So we'll speak to Professor Major. What is generally included in a photography creative portfolio?
Yeah, so typically it is a portfolio of photographs, although it doesn't always have to be. And with that, schools usually want between 10 and 20 pieces or photographs as examples of what students have created.
Okay. Is it okay if it's not on a professional camera?
Absolutely. You know, similar to what the other guys are saying, you know, we're really interested in seeing who you are as a visual storyteller and a creative thinker. And so the camera doesn't really matter because that's just the tool that allows you to capture the image. So it can be from your phone, it can be from a point and shoot, it can be from a DSLR. It really doesn't make a difference. You are still thinking through the images you're creating. And that's really what we're looking for.
Okay. And can it be all types of photographs, or are you looking for something more succinct?
Yeah, great question. I would certainly recommend that in creating a portfolio, you are trying to create a series of work or a body of work instead of sending in, here's my landscape and here's my food photograph and here's my portrait and here's my pet and all that kind of stuff. So not really a best of kind of gathering of images. If you can think about something that you really enjoy photographing or really enjoy doing even, let's say you have a group of friends that you hang out with all the time. Well, start documenting what you're doing with them. You know, tell a story about who that group of friends, who they are, what do they do? What is that process? You know, that could be a great way to do it. If you're really interested in photographing food, send in a portfolio of food photographs. You know, really a series of work, I think, is a stronger way to show who you are as a visual thinker than a series or, you know, individual one-off images.
Okay. And would you prefer it to come with a descriptive paragraph?
Yeah, great question. That happens a lot. For me personally, I would much rather have the work tell the story than have to read the story separately. I certainly don't need to read, and I think this is true for most schools, what your camera settings are. You know, and looking at it, we can pretty much figure that out. So I don't need that kind of information. If you have, let's say you're shooting a documentary series and you want to add more description of really what's going on, great, that's fine. But I don't need a specific description of here's a picture of the bridge and it was at sunset, and I can see all that, right? And I want the image to be able to give me that information instead.
If they have done like drastic editing to the photo, would you want to know about that?
No, I don't need to know. If you've got skills in Photoshop or Lightroom already, that's great. But I don't need to know that. You know, I think the way a lot of photographers think about it is if I can't tell that it's been manipulated, you've done a great job, right? And so you do not need to reveal that or share that information. If you want to, somewhere in, you know, for us at NIFA, we ask for a personal statement. Basically, if you want to talk about your skills, what you've learned to do already, that's the place to do it. But I don't think it needs to go along with the image.
Okay. Would you accept anything other than photographs?
Sure, absolutely. Just like the other guys were talking about, you know, we want to know who you are as a creative thinker and a visual storyteller. So, you know, painting, poetry, furniture design sounds great. You know, I mean, it could be any kind of creative outlet that you have. So any of that is fine.
Okay. And what's the best way to submit the work?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. I think one thing I would really suggest you do not do is send in just a random handful of JPEGs. Treat the way you send the images in as, you know, a professional experience, just sort of like what Joey was saying. Put together some kind of package, build a slideshow, make a PDF that we can just see one document and look through, put it on a website, something that has a finished feel to it. Now, again, we're not expecting you to be experts at this point, right? That's why you're coming to school. So I don't expect it to be perfect. I don't expect it to be professional level as if you're working in the industry already, but I do expect to see thought behind what you're creating and how you're presenting it.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, one or two pieces of advice for students who have not created a portfolio before.
Yeah, great. I think I have one, but we'll see. I would really suggest that you find the thing or things that you really enjoy, right? Because that's going to allow you to be passionate about what you're creating. It's going to allow you to spend the time and to think through what you're doing. To me, that's a much more important thing to see than to be able to show, a total understanding of camera or process or equipment, because I want to see who you are as a thinker, right? What your creative take on the world is. How are you seeing things, right? So really think about what it is that you enjoy. What are you interested in? And how do you translate that into the visual image?
Perfect. Okay. So now that we have an overview, I think we'll start to open it up to questions. So if you do have a question, please type it in the chat box and we'll go ahead and read them. So there's the first question. Tammy, if you want to maybe take this one. Does New York Film Academy provide scholarships in the directing field?
That is an excellent question. So we do offer scholarships through the New York Film Academy, depending on what program that you're considering. We're only talking about scholarships for our what we consider long-term programs, so our degree programs or our conservatory, which are 1 or 2 year programs. We don't offer any scholarship opportunities for our short courses. Of course, because we're talking very internationally right now, many countries do have specific scholarships for nationals of the country that you can apply for. So depending on where you are or what scholarships you're eligible for, we do accept them. So there's a few different ways to be able to obtain scholarships for us. Of course, if you do have any questions about that, I'll make sure you guys have my contact information so you can work with me directly. But through the New York Film Academy, we do offer opportunities for need scholarships, talent scholarships, and also merit scholarships for our undergraduate students.
Great. And another question is, how can we join the visual online audition?
For me?
Sure.
So we did mention opportunities to submit your audition or submit your portfolio. New York Film Academy is offering every 3rd Saturday of the month audition and portfolio days. Those are for applicants to the school. So those are for their long-term applicants to be able to present their work to some of the lovely people on this call, if that's your portfolio or if that's going to be your audition, depending on the program that you're applying for. So you can go ahead and register right on our website to be able to sign up for one of those.
Okay. And then we do have other questions that come up often. Again, please feel free to type in your questions, but is it normal that you have to have an undergraduate degree in something similar in order to go into a master's degree?
For me too.
Huh? Someone just right as I asked that. Shahar, I know you. Sure, if you want to take it.
Sure. So you can have a chemical engineering degree, you can have an architecture degree, it does not matter. We're not primarily looking at what your education background was. Of course, yes, we do need to see your transcripts, your diploma, wherever your last institution was, although the major does not really matter. I think to highlight what we're talking about today here, which is the portfolio and the audition, that's really what we're looking at. We completely understand that maybe 4 years ago you weren't considering becoming a filmmaker and you loved chemical engineering 4 years ago, but now you want to be an actor or whatever it is. We do not require it to be in the same field.
And I think some of the gentlemen might agree with me on this. Coming from a different background is actually what makes you a little bit more interesting, and it can tell a different story compared to someone who has studied acting their entire life. So we find it's very interesting if you do come from a different background to join one of the master's programs, because it brings a different side and story to it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Lizzie, I have a couple questions from the registration form.
Okay.
One person is asking, and I know this was mentioned, but how do you, well, I think they addressed how do you prepare a portfolio for filmmaking, but what type of written work do you look for in a filmmaking portfolio?
Mm-hmm.
Just, I think it was touched on, just to readdress, I guess.
Sure. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm happy to field that. Something that tells a story is ideally what we're looking for. So Could it be a script? That would be great, because obviously that's really germane to that particular field. But it need not be in script or in proper script format. So it could be a short story. It could be, it could be, again, it could be a poem. It could be, even something that you wrote. If it were like a film analysis, that would work, because that would demonstrate to us that you are a critical thinker, that you've been thinking about, the efficacy of directors' choices, and that you also can put down a cogent argument on paper as to why something worked, why something didn't work. So a fairly wide range. But I would say I think most schools are looking for something that demonstrates, again, your ability to tell a story, because it shows us who you are and what you're interested in.
I will add to that as well. Again, it does have to be in English.
I'd actually like to add just one quick thing to that. Again, that should be brief. If rather than doing a full short story, sometimes just a scene is sometimes better too. About 6 to 12 pages. John, is that what you feel?
Yes, Jay, I would agree.
Great,
Yeah.
perfect.
Someone just stated, I'm interested in animation, and I don't know if anybody wants to address animation as a field.
Sure, we can. Joey, you want to go?
Sure, I'm happy to. In general, obviously, what I would do is definitely check out our website. We do have, so in regards to a portfolio, that's what we're talking about today. So for that, what we're specifically looking for in the animation world is, again, telling a story. So sometimes we've had some people submit short stories, but really our interest is you can do 2D, so your drawings, but we're also interested in potentially modeling. If you have experience in the software itself, such as Maya or Houdini or ZBrush, those are also really great. There are also some really great cheap free tutorials. So you can play in those too, upload them, they're month trials depending. There's also student trials while you're here, but not mandatory. But again, those are some definitely helpful things. But again, we just want to see your creative side. And I'm going to reiterate over and over again, the fact that we're not looking for an end product. We're not looking for you to be a professional. We're looking for that potential in order to take you to the next level. And that's what's kind of exciting about what we do here in the education world, is we look for potential talent and then hone that and get to take that throughout the rest of the couple of years that you're with us.
Great.
Just one more, somebody's asking about a graphic design portfolio. Now, is that going to be a similar type of response?
I would say yes, it's very similar to everything else that's being mentioned. Closer, obviously, to 3D animation. If you do have any 2D, any work that you've done online, again, we just want to see the work that you have created.
And that would be anything from graphics to drawings to moving image as well, because even in our program there is, like when we're watching a sports, for example, those sports scenes, things that are at the titles at the bottom are the moving images. That is also important to us as well. So that can vary, but again, we're looking for just your creative side.
Absolutely. Paula, are there any other questions from the registration form?
No, I think everything else was covered that was asked. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. We do have another question. Are the postgraduate programs tutored in theory more, or are they more practical and hands-on?
I'll jump in.
Whoever wants to jump in.
Sure. Obviously, the question is specific to NYFA, or at least the answer will be. It is practical. I mean, that is kind of who we are. That is our pedagogical ethos, if you will. That we believe that you learn best by doing. And so, of course, theory is part of that. Understanding, foundational thinking, and then being able to sometimes complement or counter that, but it's all really about the practice. And so I think I can speak on behalf of all departments in saying, and although someone can jump in if they want, in saying that it's a very practical, hands-on approach. I know that is in our literature, but it's really not just a marketing slogan. It is truly, it's what we practice. So,
David,
to
did you
give a practical example, the cinematography program in New York lasts 41 weeks, about 10 months, and 300 days, if we want to converted in numbers, about 100 of those are spent on set. So on top of the classes that are practical, like camera, grip and electric, all the learning on the equipment and of course on theory, but then we have about 1/3 of the program is exclusively spent on set with the students shooting within themselves and in lead instructor workshop, and which can be, as simple as in a room with little lighting to exterior night shots, with overnight shoots or 3-4 day long workshops in the second semester. So it's definitely, that is literally the only way to learn filmmaking, cinematography, acting. You can be a scholar and certainly learn how to read movies and write about movies and maybe writing movies as well, but you cannot learn how to make movies if you don't make them. And so that is absolutely the philosophy here in NIFA. That personally, that's why I like to teach for NIFA and to work for them, because I like to shoot movies, not just to talk about them.
I'd actually love to tag into that too, what some of my favorite things about the New York Film Academy is that we cross-pollinate these different disciplines as well. So our actors work with our filmmakers and cinematographers, et cetera, and all of these disciplines are aligned with one another. So there's some really exciting things. We're also located in Los Angeles, in the heart of Hollywood. So in LA, we're actually across the street from Universal Studios, right next door to Warner Brothers. Our students shoot on Universal Studios backlot and in their sound stages. In New York City, we overlook the Statue of Liberty right there in the base of Manhattan. And then in Miami South Beach, we overlook the beach right there on Lincoln Road. So you can't really go wrong depending on the location, but you're also learning not only from professionals that are doing this every day and are continually doing this in the industry, but you're making worldwide contacts as well as US contacts.
Okay, Tammy, I'll send this one to you. Where can I apply for these programs and scholarships?
So if you are looking to get a scholarship from New York Film Academy, you do have to be an applicant to the school. So once you are an applicant to the school, we'll kind of guide you from there. And Lizzie, I did have something maybe it's more of a comment because I don't see any additional questions. I know that there may be some people that are watching this that are still saying like, I don't know where to start. I know I want to do this. I understand what a portfolio is. I know what I need to do to audition. So I thought maybe we could ask maybe some of the chairs, since we have them, to give some advice on where students should start. I know that there are so many platforms because of COVID, unfortunately, that, there's many places to learn more about these crafts. Maybe some students are out there and saying, I'm interested in film, but I also not sure if I want to study acting. I know at New York Film Academy, we are offering free masterclasses and online workshops, and it's a great place for students to start. But I was just wondering if maybe the chairs could, give some advice on maybe, how they could get started in their field.
Thanks, Tammy.
Sure. I can jump in on that one. I think, one of the best things to do at the beginning and really throughout your whole career in the creative field is to create, right? So regardless of what kind of equipment you have and what kind of training you have, just start making images, right? And sharing those with people, getting people's opinions. It's really easy, unfortunately, to be a photographer or a filmmaker in a vacuum, right? Or an actor in a vacuum. But you really want to talk about feedback. You want to sort of share with a group of trusted people and peers. And don't just show it to your mom because she's going to love everything you do, right? So show it to people whose opinions you really value and trust. And it will help you to start sort of figure out the things that you're good at and the things that maybe you want to work on. I also think short workshops are a great way to really decide if it's something that you really want to pursue. Right, so maybe before you're on the fence, like Tammy said, about filmmaking or acting or photography, maybe you take a 4-week class before you dive into a bachelor program or to a 2-year certificate program, to just make sure and to sort of really see if this is the direction you want to go in.
I'd like also to add, first of all, my mother sends me, when she watches my movies, a review and point out what doesn't work and which scenes she didn't like. But other people are more lucky than that. I think, you really need to be honest to yourself in what is your passion and what you like. Because if your passion is animation, but you think that filmmaking will give you, potentially more work or an easier life, or acting is, the acting jobs are better paid than animation or cinematography or whatever. That you're not doing a favor to yourself, because this is mine, but I'm sure everybody else can say the same of their fields. These are the most exciting work in life. I mean, I would not be able to be without these, but it's also a lot of work, a lot of time that you have to put in, a lot of effort, a lot of energies. If you don't do what you really want to do, if you don't do what you really feels is your vocation, is your call, it will be 10 times harder. Be honest to yourself of what you really like and what you really pushes you to, in wanting to do, because that is really what I would explore first with a short program, with, a master class, with shooting things with friends, and trying to make something and see if if you're really into it that much. That is always, I think, a good start.
Yeah, and right now, just to reiterate on top of that, we also have virtual online classes right now in all of these very different disciplines. So definitely take a look at those as well.
I think, yes. I don't know if y'all can hear me now, but I think everything that need be said or should have been said has been said. So I certainly concur with my colleagues. All sound advice, in order to be creative, you have to create, as David said. And so, just this is something that I can share my own personal story without getting too much into it, is that I constantly would put these barriers in my way and say, if only I get this, then I'll be able to do that. And, that was a severe hindrance to my career and to the start of my career. So those barriers don't exist. They're only in your mind. Just get out there and make it. And the best way to find out is by doing. And you might find out that you like watching movies, not making them. And that's okay.
It's true. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? How long is the duration of master's programs or postgraduate long-term programs? New York Film Academy has both a 1-year Master of Arts and a 2-year Master of Fine Arts program, so you have your choice. The bachelor's degree at the New York Film Academy is an accelerated 3-year program, so you do study full-time year-round for 3 years, so it is a little bit different. But for the master's, we have both a 1-year and a 2-year program. Any other questions?
Lizzie, let me just ask quickly, what are the prerequisites, apart from the portfolio, the audition components, prerequisites for the undergraduate program?
For the undergraduate program, it's the portfolio or the audition, of course, proof of high school graduation. We then do require 2 letters of recommendation from a teacher, a counselor, anyone who has worked with the student professionally. They do also have to write a statement of purpose, as well as a TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo exam. And it's the same for master's programs as well. So let's just put that out there.
Okay.
For those of you who may be interested in the short-term workshops, those 4 or 8-week workshops, the only prerequisite is that you have graduated from high school, with the exception of our musical theater program. But we very much believe that if you have a passion for learning about this, you should be able to do that. And the 4 and 8-week workshops are really the best way to start and put your foot forward with creating. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. What I will say is thank you to everyone who joined us today. It was a pleasure. Someone asked, where can I find these workshops? If you go online, I'll type out our website in the chat box. Everything can be found on there. And that is really going to be your go-to to find everything. But like all of the gentlemen here said, just start creating, follow your passions and do what you want. And that's what we're here for. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a fabulous evening. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you, Esio.
And thank you to all the panelists. Great information about creating a portfolio and how to prepare an audition. I learned a lot today myself, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Asil, did you want to share? Asil, do you want to share the slide or yours there?
Everything is okay. Thank you so much, Ria, for the. I really learned a lot, and it was really interesting to listen to all this information from like different departments, and I'm sure that our participants benefited a lot. And we have lots of people who are viewing this live session on our Facebook page, and they liked it a lot. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.